All right, I see the numbers ticking up, so we're going to get going. Good morning. My name is Gabriela Lomensain, and I'm the Director of Communications at the Center for Immigration Law and Policy at UCLA School of Law. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm thrilled to be here, but mostly to have you hear from Kareli, Abraham, Jeffrey, Ju, Kent, and Ahilan. We're launching Opportunity for All today, a campaign with national implications and starting right here at home in the UC system, the third largest employer in California. As we all know, DACA and the job permits that come with it are dangling by a thread. And the program has already aged out thousands of students. As the New York Times stated today, the class of young immigrants who grew up in the United States but are not eligible for DACA is expanding at the rate of 100,000 people each year. California alone is home to more than 44,000 undocumented college students who cannot apply, and another 27,000 are graduating from high schools in the state each year. But as my colleagues will explain, there is nothing stopping the UC system from allowing all its students access to jobs, fellowships, and all other opportunities for advancement that the UC system offers. Students like Kareli, Abraham, and Jeffrey do not have to turn down job offers or say no to collaborations with professors or colleagues that inspire them just because of their immigration status. Denying equal opportunity to all students is not just unjust and contrary to the mission of the UC system, but it turns out that legally, there's nothing stopping the UC system from providing undocumented students the same opportunities it offers all its students today. So let's get going. We'll start with Kareli Amaya Rios, who is a rising public policy graduate student at UCLA and is one of the student organizers spearheading the Opportunity for All campaign. She's definitely not new to creating equal opportunities for students at UCLA. And so I also want to thank you, Kareli, for all you've done to make the UC system more equitable. Kareli?
Thank you, Gabriela, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kareli Amaya. I am an undocumented student without DACA. I have a job offer on the table that simply because of my status, I cannot accept. I'm here to demand the University of California to treat me equally as my peers and allow me to be hired by the UCLA Labor Center. Even though my family and I immigrated to the US when I was 2, I didn't qualify for DACA. Ever since I arrived to UCLA in 2018, it has been an uphill battle trying to advocate to obtain resources that undocumented students without DACA have been barred from accessing. We are excluded from scholarships, fellowships, internships, and research opportunities just because of our immigration status. In 2020, I organized a campaign titled ICE or US with an undocumented student organization called IDEAS from the university to have a response as DACA was being battled in court. At the time, there was already a ton of UC students like myself who didn't have DACA, and we needed a more permanent solution from the university. You accepted us, we argued. Now you have to retain us. 2 years after, nothing much has changed. We won a couple paid fellowships with stipends for undocumented students, but still those resources are not enough and are very limited, leaving our undocumented students going up against one another, fighting for these scarce resources. I am exhausted of waiting and trying to fight for my livelihood as a student. I'm exhausted. Currently, I'm pursuing my graduate degree studying public policy at UCLA. I have an offer that would essentially provide me a full ride to UCLA. However, due to my immigration status, I am unable to take advantage of this opportunity that I earned because of my hard work, despite all I'm balancing. I am being alienated on my own campus and have been treated as less than compared to my classmates. This has forced me to scrap up money wherever I can find it to make ends meet. I can't wait around for the federal government to do something. My livelihood depends on creative solutions and urgency, which they seem to not have. So that is why I'm joining the 24 of the most respected immigration and constitutional law professors from around the country who agree State entities are not bound by the Federal Immigration Reform and Control Act, IRCA, the 1986 law that bars undocumented workers without work authorization from being able to legally work in the US. The University of California has both an opportunity and an obligation to remove barriers to employment for all students on all 10 of their campuses, regardless of immigration status. They have the legal authority to hire me, and they need to do so now.
Thank you so much, Kareli. We will turn now to Abraham Cruz Hernandez, who's a senior at UCLA and is majoring in labor studies and public affairs. Like Kareli, Abraham is deeply involved in IDEAS, the organization Improving Dreams, Equality, Access, and Success at UCLA, and has broken many barriers that undocumented students face here at UCLA. Abraham, thanks so much for being with us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all. Good morning. And thank you all for being here with us. We're very excited to finally go public with this campaign and tell you all about this incredible efforts. So like Kareli, I also came into UCLA in 2018 as an undocumented student. And ever since then, it has, as Kareli mentioned, has been an uphill battle to not only have our retention, but also go towards that ultimate goal of matriculation in the university. As soon as we stepped out of campus, we quickly recognized the shortcomings of the university and resources and opportunities, especially for the growing number of non-DACA undocumented students. And so that's why ever since then, we've been fighting and urging the university and administration to do something proactive, especially when the writing has been on the wall for DACA, for then DACA. Just to give you all a little bit more context as to why something like this is needed, why this campaign is needed now. Last week, Senator Durbin told reporters that he cannot count more than 5 Republicans who would be willing to vote for legislation to codify protections for DACA recipients. Yesterday, House Minority Leader Republican Kevin McCarthy of California told reporters that we will not support any immigration relief, things such as a pathway for citizenship for DACA recipients. He wouldn't include anything like that in a deal that would include, even if the deal includes increased border security. So this means that both chambers are unlikely to pass any relief during this session, and undocumented students and undocumented individuals need relief at this moment. They need it now. And the best thing about this initiative, this campaign, is that it will not require any new legislation, and the UC can start implementing this today. They did not have to wait for Congress or for the White House to do anything, and it is in their hands for them to take action. Moreover, during last month's during September's UC Regents meeting, UC President Drake outlined his presidential priorities plan, and the number one thing as his top priority is expanding opportunity and excellence in the UC. President Drake and the UC Office of the President recognize that the UC must do better in order for the university to accurately and equitably mirror the population of the states. Additionally, they recognize that work opportunities must be expanded for its students in order for them to graduate debt-free. All of these priorities fall in line with the goals of Opportunity for All in our campaign. By expanding campus employment opportunities for undocumented students, the UC can now make tremendous strides in their presidential priorities, and this is an opportunity that they cannot pass up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abraham. Next, we'll hear from Jeffrey Umania Munoz. His first year at UCLA was spent on Zoom, but he still managed to get involved, become part of the student government, and was confronted each step he took with another barrier because he's undocumented. Jeffrey?
Thank you, Gabriela. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Umania Munoz. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm currently a third-year undergraduate at UCLA. Just to give a little bit more of a backstory, when I chose UCLA, I did so over the offer of a full ride and a stipend at Harvard University. But I chose the UC because of the established undocumented student community, but also mainly because of all of the support and equal opportunities that the UC pledged to offer undocumented students. I thought that if I stayed in LA, being closer to home, I not only was going to support my family, but I was going to have the support of an entire school system behind me. I chose the UC because I was promised that here I would not be my status. I was just going to be a student. And that because of that, they would pour all their resources into me and support me holistically. The UC has failed on that promise every single time since I've matriculated at the university. They failed at providing any semblance of support, let alone equal opportunity to succeed. Even when I attempted to take on opportunities like any UC student, the way Gabriela was mentioning, and push change on campus by representing my peers in the student government space, I was blocked out because of my immigration status. How can the UC truly claim to prepare me to be a contributing leader in my community if it actively does everything to block me out of my community? And it was a little bit of a contradiction for me because after looking at the chancellor's vision for UCLA, upon becoming chancellor, Gene Block explicitly noted in his inaugural address that one of his main priorities was to bring the university directly into communities around it through the creation and application of knowledge to better the lives and the well-being of those around us. I think today, Opportunity for All, this campaign that we're launching, not only seizes on that mandate head first and shows what can be done when academia meets community organizing, but it provides the university and its administrators like President Drake and Chancellor Gene Block with that same opportunity to meet their own mandate. I came to the UCLA in the fall of 2020, and I was really part of that first large cohort of undocumented students that did not have DACA, especially in the wake of Trump's transition and the court litigation over DACA. I turned 15 at the time that Trump rescinded DACA, which sent it straight to litigation. And because of court litigation, I was only ever able to apply for the first time for the program in December of 2020, when a court order just briefly reinstated the program to its original mandate. But when another court order backtracked on that decision, now my application remains frozen in UCIS. And despite being eligible, meeting all the requirements, I know that no relief, no support is coming from the federal government. So what we did as students? We created the relief and we created the support. We got together with the Center for Immigration Law and Policy and the Labor Center, and we figured out what we could do. We redirected our movement, pivoted our energies to where we know we could secure a win for our communities, and we created Opportunity for All. I joined this campaign, one, because I also have a great job offer waiting for me with the Labor Center the moment that the UC gives the green light. But I joined mainly because of my experience and the experience of so many other undocumented students who have to face feeling like less than their counterparts with legal status, just as we scrap together bits and pieces to barely graduate from the UC. For too long, the UC has hid behind the traditional reading of IRCA and has taken every opportunity it's had to leave undocumented students on the outside of progress. That changes today. Today, we're making clear that the university has the legal authority to provide us equal opportunity, and it must do so today. This is a chance to enact real change that can truly affect and change people's lives forever. The reverberations of this campaign passing, they'll be felt across the UC, but across the state as well, across families and homes up and down the state. It's beautiful. The university needs to heed its mission and seize on that opportunity immediately. Thank you.
Jeffrey, Kareli, Abraham, thank you so much. As they touched on, UCLA and the UC system is a place where students, especially undocumented students, come to find community and power. And our next speaker started out as a student and ended up as a community builder and leader. Ju Hong is the director of the Dream Resource Center at UCLA that provides emerging leaders a safe and empowering space to create impactful social policy and narrative change. Ju, thank you so much for being with us.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I'm incredibly honored to be here and sharing this stage with amazing panelists, movers and shakers in this room. My name is Ju, and I'm a DACA recipient and the director of the UCLA Dream Resource Center, an organization housed at the UCLA Labor Center that empowers the next generation of immigrant youth to be the forefront of social justice movements across the country. The UCLA Dream Resource Center is proud to support the Opportunity for All campaign, which is launching at a critical time in history, as this year marks the 10th anniversary of DACA, yet the future of the program remains uncertain. DACA has protected more than 825,000 immigrant youth from deportation and provided them with employment authorization. However, as we know, DACA is a vulnerable and temporary program with limitations on who qualifies. Many of our undocumented community members, including students, are left unprotected due to its arbitrary requirements. And in California, nearly 45,000 undocumented college students are not eligible for DACA, and 27,000 undocumented students graduate from high school each year. And even those who qualify for DACA, like me, continue to live in uncertainty because at any given moment, DACA can be terminated, putting our futures and lives in danger. While the DACA program is currently being challenged in the courts, UC students are taking matters into their own hands and advocating for their rights by demanding the University of California to provide equal access to campus job opportunities to all students, regardless of their immigration status. For far too long, students' lives have been in limbo as the Biden administration and Congress have failed to fulfill their promises to secure a pathway to citizenship for the millions of undocumented people in the United States. While Opportunity for All is not a replacement for DACA or more permanent solutions, it would provide immediate necessary relief for students who have been unjustly buried from the same opportunities as their peers on campus. As steward of the public trust, the UC believes in inclusiveness and treating each other with respect. Today, we demand UC uphold those values on campus by providing all students, regardless of their immigration status, and access to job opportunities. Every student should be treated with respect and have the opportunity to thrive on campus. No student should be buried from opportunities simply because of their immigration status. As a current DACA recipient, I know that access to employment is life-changing and open doors to many opportunities. So I, along with the UCLA Dream Research Center, will push for the Opportunity for All campaign and strive toward creating a more inclusive and equitable society for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Xu. Next, we're going to hear from Kent Wong, who is the director of the UCLA Labor Center. His classroom, guidance, and support have given rise to effective and passionate student activism that have inspired national movements. Kent, thank you so much for being here and for all you've done for so many years to make UCLA a more equitable school and community. Kent?
Thank you, Gabriela. And I first wanted to give a shout out for our extraordinary UCLA students, Kareli, Abraham, and Jeffrey. They make us proud, and they represent the finest of this generation of leaders and activists who are making history. And I'm also so proud of the work of Ju Hong, a UC Berkeley graduate, and although a DACA recipient, still faces many of the barriers and challenges of others in this situation. UCLA immigrant students have played a key leadership role in advancing immigrant rights policies for more than 15 years. And this tradition is continuing today. It is student activism that led the fight for the California DREAM Act, which opened up unprecedented opportunities for tens of thousands of students throughout California over the last decades. And it was immigrant youth who also led the fight for deferred action for childhood arrivals, which has benefited more than 800,000 undocumented youth across the country. Some of the finest students in my career at UCLA have been undocumented students who have overcome tremendous obstacles to achieve higher education. They are part of our community, they are part of our campus, and they deserve our respect and our support. They should not be treated as second-class citizens. They should not be treated differently from other students, and they should not be denied job opportunities. The UCLA Labor Center would hire these students today if we were given permission by the University of California. Our students are being treated unfairly, and the university is negatively impacted as well. I taught the first class in the country on the issue of undocumented immigrant students. And for the first time, we offered this class statewide earlier this year to students on all 9 UC campuses. And I would love to hire as teaching assistants and as researchers, Corelli and Abraham and Jeffrey and many others who would be making such vast contributions to the research, to the education, and to the public service mission of our university. The University of California should play a leading role in advancing full rights and opportunities for our students, regardless of their immigration status. The nation is watching, and we call on the University of California to stand on the right side of history.
Thank you so much, Kent. Finally, before we open it up for questions, I want to introduce my colleague, Ahila Narulanantham. He's the faculty co-director of the Center for Immigration Law and Policy. And along with our other faculty co-director, Hiroshi Motomura, and law fellow, Asrik Hairapetian, he's been diving deep into IRCA, and they've uncovered the legal reasoning behind the opportunity that the UC system faces today. Ahilan?
Thanks very much, Gabriela, and thanks to everyone for being here. I really am thrilled to be here alongside these powerful student organizers, Corelli and Abraham and Jeffrey. It's no surprise hearing them speak that anybody would want to hire them. I mean, who wouldn't, right? I'm also really honored to be here with my brilliant UCLA colleagues, Professor Wong and Director Hong. As you've heard just now, the ban on hiring undocumented students has had a profound effect on thousands of undocumented students who are denied equal access to educational employment opportunities that their peers receive. But what we found during research at the Center for Immigration Law and Policy is that it does not have to be this way. And what we do here at the center is try to take time to look closely at our immigration laws and carefully examine long-held assumptions, some of which may not be correct. And in this case, after more than a year of intensive research, we identified an error in how the university, and to be fair, nearly everyone else, has interpreted a very important federal immigration law. It was a mistake hiding in plain sight that, once corrected, will allow the university to give these students and so many others the opportunities that they deserve. The Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986, or IRCA, is the federal law that prohibits the hiring of undocumented people. And observers have long assumed that IRCA applies to state government entities. But as it turns out, that assumption is actually incorrect. The basic argument is really simple. IRCA explicitly mentions that federal government entities are bound by the prohibition on hiring undocumented people. It was amended in 1996 specifically to add that provision, but it nowhere says that it applies to state government employers. That omission is extremely significant because a number of Supreme Court cases, and really a very basic principle of our federal structure in this country, where we have 2 sets of governments, 2 sets of sovereigns, make clear that if Congress wants to legislate, the federal Congress wants to legislate in areas of traditional state power, like employment, and even more specifically, when the states are deciding who they want to hire for themselves, Congress has to do so very clearly. When Congress does not speak so clearly, its laws still, of course, apply to other actors, to private businesses, and maybe even to local governments, but not to states. So what Corelli, Abraham, Jeffrey, Drew, and Kent are saying here today is true. The UC system could hire all the undocumented students that they want to hire today. This is a big deal. It means that one of the state's largest employers doesn't have to discriminate on the basis of immigration status. Now, after we first identified this mistake, we didn't immediately start to shout it from the hills, right? We spent months conducting legal research to test our theory. We conducted multiple listening sessions with immigration and constitutional law scholars, including people who study specifically the intersection of immigration and federalism, and also litigators. We took in all of their strongest arguments or possible arguments against our view. Ultimately, all of them, a total of 26 prominent immigration and constitutional law scholars, looked at our research and endorsed it. They include my colleague Hiroshi Motomura, who honestly is perhaps the most knowledgeable immigration law professor in the entire country, Dean Erwin Chemerinsky of Berkeley Law School, Dean Kevin Johnson of UC Davis Law School. These are the deans, I think, who are perhaps have the most expertise, particularly in immigration or the intersection of immigration and constitutional law. Professor Jennifer Chacon at Berkeley Law School, Professor Adam Cox of NYU, Professor Pradeepan Gulasekaram, many others who are experts in this field. I also think it important to think about this proposal in the larger context of what is happening with undocumented students. As Ju and others have mentioned, we all know DACA may well be gone soon. It's hanging by a thread. But I think it's important for people to understand that DACA is already unavailable to thousands of undocumented students entering college every year, because no one who arrived in the US after June 15th, 2007 is eligible for DACA. No one who came after the summer of 2007 can qualify. They're essentially too young. So most students entering the UC system today are too young to qualify for the program, which means they're denied the critical rights and protections that allow them to participate fully in university life. So my colleagues and I here at SILP have been honored to work with the undocumented student leaders you've heard from today, as well as Professor Wong and Director Hong and his colleagues. We are eager to hear the response of UC leadership. And we've heard the history of the university and repeatedly heard its expressions of support for undocumented students. Now is a really important opportunity for the university leadership to turn that rhetoric of commitment into action by supporting this campaign. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ahilan. So our comments have concluded, and we'll move now to take questions from reporters on the call. Please use the raise hand function on Zoom, and we will take questions one by one. And you can also submit questions in writing via the Q&A function. So I'll pause here to give folks a chance to get their questions ready. We may have been super thorough, but I'm seeing a question here from Fatima Seferino.
Sorry.
Fatima,
Yes, I was waiting for the unmute button. I
oh,
couldn't
sorry
see
about
it.
that. Go
No
ahead.
worries. Yes. So my name is Fatima Zaffarino, and I am a student leader on my campus. I did want to ask if there was a way that I can connect with the students that were on the panel. I am also a first generation undocumented student, and I have been one of thousands of students that have been waiting for the DACA program to continue accepting first-time applicants. And it has been, here and there, hurdle here and there, and it's been very disappointing. And I know this, I know a lot of students, not just in the UC system, deal with this or go through this. And I just wanted to have an opportunity to connect with the students and kind of learn more about the laws that, that are being misinterpreted from different schools. I'm not sure if that's something I'm able to do to get connected with some of the students, but I did want to also say thank you to everybody that spoke today and shared their experience. It was really emotional for me to hear because it was something that I completely understand, and I've also gone through it. A lot of other folks and student leaders I've met throughout my educational journey have also been talking about, and I just want to thank every single student here that was able to talk about their experience.
Thank you so much, Fatima. Thank you so much for being with us. I'll let some of the students let you know the bigger plans. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can go ahead and answer this question. Fatima, thank you for being here and just being a part and being bold and sharing your story. And yes, please get connected with us. We'll share our emails on the chat. But yes, we're recruiting students from all over the UCs. This is a UC-wide effort, right? And we're starting at home because we're UC students, but the plan is to move forward to CSUs and CCs and set a precedent for states to follow after California. So we also will be having a teach-in November 1st that's invited, it's open to the entire public. It's going to be hosted at UCLA, but we're going to be having a hybrid version. So folks can also join us from Zoom that aren't able to make the drive. So that teach-in will be something similar to this, but we'll have, cultural expressions, and we'll be telling people where we're at in the campaign and what actions need to be taken in order for the UC to give us the answer that we want to hear.
Thank you so much. Our next question is from Andrew Craybaum. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, from Bloomberg, please.
Hi, thanks for doing the event. So I had a couple questions. I think Kareli partially answered one of them. First of all, I wondered if the center could provide a full or partial list of some of the legal scholars it consulted in this process. Then I'm curious if there's been any response from the UC system so far, and also if the center and activists have been in touch with folks working on this issue in other states about pushing their own colleges and university systems on this issue.
I can start with that one. Yeah, I have a complete list. I could read them out to you if you want. Samir Asher, I don't know if this is going to be worth everyone's time, but yes, we have a complete list, and we can easily follow it up with you with it. There are professors, actually not many of the most knowledgeable immigration law professors within UC, but then also people from other universities, from NYU and Cardozo and Yale and Penn State and Cornell. I'm just reading off the list here. So from all over. As for the university's response, we made a kind of initial query to them about it. And perhaps Abraham can speak a bit more about this, because I know he presented it in a public comment at UC. And the sort of initial response was that they didn't think they could do it at this point. But I think it's also my hope anyway, is that was sort of an initial reaction, not based on a very detailed review of the legal argument. I also don't think, I'm fairly sure, I don't know this for certain, but I'm fairly sure that at least not all of them were aware that, like, Dean Chemerinsky from Berkeley and Dean Kevin Johnson, people who are the sort of highest external legal authorities within the UC on this subject, actually see it our way. But that's all I sort of know about it. I don't know if Abraham or anybody else wants to speak more about it.
Yeah, just on what Ahilan said, we have engaged with some of UC leadership already and presented not the entire campaign, but the main premise of the campaign and what they can do. But as Ahilan said, their initial reaction was to say no, that it was an initiative they can take up at this time, which as an organizer is something that we expected. For that to be their response, which is why we're continuing to go ahead with this campaign, and we'll see how they react to this.
If I could address the national impact of this initiative, UCLA students, and especially our undocumented students at UCLA, have been at the forefront nationally of advancing change in immigration policy. And our students here at UCLA, in partnership with the Labor Center, have published 3 path-breaking books that have documented the history of the immigrant youth movement, not only here in California, but throughout the country. These 3 books have been sources of inspiration for undocumented immigrant students on college campuses all throughout the country. And so the participation, the presence, the leadership of our undocumented students here at UCLA and on other University of California campuses resonates with students all across the country. So I guarantee you, as soon as this press conference is over, there will be a huge momentum and energy where students across the country will be following very closely what happens here at the University of California. And it is a huge opportunity for the University of California to go on record to do the right thing.
Thank you so much. Our next question is from Julia Preston from the Marshall Project. I'll read it out, Julia, and if you have any follow-ups, you can unmute yourself. She's asking, what legal action, if any, do you have to take to prompt the university to take action on your proposal?
I'll just say from my perspective, we really don't think it should come to something like that. I mean, the university has said over and over again that it supports undocumented students, that they want to do everything that's within their legal power to support undocumented students. So, it's conceivable there are obviously, potential litigation avenues here, but that really should not be necessary, and it's not something that we have thought about in any kind of detail.
Julia, if you have follow-up questions, you have to use the raise hand function and I can unmute you. If not, we can answer them in the chat. Does anybody else have anything to add there?
Yeah, I can add something. I think for us, from the student perspective, is we understand that as Ahilan was mentioning, law already provides for this program, right? Like there's nothing, we're not trying to create anything new. We're not trying to replace DACA, create a different type of relief. That law already provides for this to be able to occur, right? And so for us, like we necessarily haven't really considered like what comes next, like in terms of legal action or in terms of those fights around litigation, because, like as Ahilan was mentioning, the university has already expressed that so long as the solution presented to them is within their legal rights, they will act on it, which means that there's nothing stopping them today from doing so.
Julia, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to be sure. So the approach here is one of advocacy. You're going to outline the legal position and then advocate with the university and try and prompt them to act.
That's correct. That's correct.
I also just wanted to add that there is tremendous public support for DACA and for undocumented students throughout California and indeed throughout the country. We have reached out to members of the UC Regents. We have reached out to members of the California State Legislature who have expressed time and again very strong support for undocumented students within the state of California. And on this issue as well, there has been very positive conversations with key leaders in California who support this initiative and who support this approach.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I would like to add is I mentioned it a little bit in my opening remarks. This campaign really shows what can happen when we merge legal theory, the thinking of the university, the research of the university with community organizing knowledge and wisdom, right? And so like we've seen what this combination, this confluence of knowledge can do earlier. It's what gave us DACA, right? It's what birthed DACA. DACA was pushed for as a student-led movement with the support of legal minds and experts. Same thing here. We're doing the same thing. We're bringing together legal theory, labor knowledge, and merging it together with what we know as student organizers about taking on the UC. Because for us, one thing that we know as student organizers here is that the legacy of the UC has always been written by the hands of students. And I think SILP and the Labor Center understood that very well. So when they came to us, they came to us as equal partners in this campaign, understanding that we had just the same amount of knowledge in a different field to give to this issue that they had from the legal side, right? And I think, had they considered a litigation route from the get-go, I don't think they would have reached out to us, right? But they understood that what they needed with students who were directly impacted to lead the issue, for those communities that were going to benefit from the support to be the ones to advocate for it and to lead it. And so I think that's why we selected this movement that combines advocacy with legal theory.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Joel Rose from National Public Radio. Joel, if you want to follow-up questions, just raise your hand so we can unmute you. But his question is, if the answer from UC leadership remains no, what next? Would you be prepared to hire undocumented students without their blessing?
We hope that that the University of California administration will do the right thing. We hope that they will take the moral high ground and will implement the law as it is written and allow us to hire undocumented students. We anticipate that in the event that there is hesitation, that we think that there will be very strong support from faculty, from students, and from community leaders who feel very strongly about this issue and would we be willing to support the position that we think accurately reflects the law and accurately reflects the mission of the public university towards research, education, and public service. So we are very hopeful that as people learn about the true and accurate reading of the law, and as they hear the stories of people like Kareli and Abraham and Jeffrey, that it will be a huge motivating factor in turning the tide of public opinion in support of our students.
Thank you, Kent. Our next question comes from Esther Quintanilla. She says, hello, I'm Esther Quintanilla from Valley Public Radio in Fresno. When we talk about undocumented student issues, what are we seeing at UC Merced, where there's a large Latino and undocumented population?
Yeah, I think I can go ahead and jump in on that first. I think actually bringing up UC Merced is an important point. For reference, UC Merced has a very large undocumented student population. If I'm not mistaken, I think they have the largest in the entire UC system. And so I think like UC Merced is exactly the type of campus that would benefit greatly from this opportunity for all campaign, right? Like given that they have so many students at their disposal ready to take on these opportunities. And also given that UC Merced is the newest campus, right? Trying to build up their research programs, trying to make a name for themselves. Doing this would allow them to do so at record speed because we know that undocumented students have skills, talents, because we're students at this university, right? We're the pupils of this university. We know what we're learning. We know how to put it into action. We just need the opportunity to do so. And so for us right now, our strategy as student organizers is to build this movement at every single campus in the UC, not just at UCLA. I think Kareli mentioned it great. Like we're starting here at home because we're here at home, right? Like this is where we're coming from. But throughout this entire campaign, we have already created a network of students, especially through the Undocumented Student Network, that's ready to go at every single campus to mobilize, to activate, and to fight for this campaign. Right now, we are currently continuing to prepare leaders across the UC, but especially with a laser focus on UC Merced to make sure that political power is built there and that our students are ready to go and that they understand this campaign to mobilize at each of their own campuses.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. I believe that's all the questions we have, unless anybody has another question. I'll give you a couple of seconds.
Could I add just one last thing to the?
Sure.
I think the question mentioned that there's a large Latino population at UC Merced. I think one clarification that I would like to make is that opportunity for all, right? Like we want to make sure that as we engage in this new campaign, we break with the narratives that are often placed on our community, whether that be the dreamer narrative or the idea that the vast majority of undocumented people fit into one racial or ethnic category, right? We are a movement for all. We're a campaign for all, for undocumented AAPI folks, undocumented Black folks, any race, culture, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, any identity fits within the undocumented community identity. And our movement needs to center that and needs to embrace that head first. And I think we would love to do that at all moments in time.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. I'm going to ask, does anybody else have anything that they want to add?
And I'm sorry to interrupt, Gabriela, but there's a technical issue. I don't know if there's a simple way to fix it, or maybe if you could, if somebody wants to just share the message. But I think there's some social media related information that they're trying to share to all the members, all the people listening, and I think we haven't done it yet. Somebody would just want to read that out or something like that. Or is it fixed?
It was just posted. Thanks,
Okay.
Asilin. All right, everybody. So thank you so much again for joining us. We're excited. We're inspired. And as you've heard today, this is the beginning of a super bold and impactful campaign that we know will have ripple effects well beyond the UC system and even well beyond California. But we're excited to be here today to launch this campaign at our academic home at UCLA and within the UC system to push for urgent changes that will significantly impact the lives of students and benefit the university community. Please reach out to us with any additional questions you may have or connect further about the campaign and the speakers you've heard from today. Our email is listed in the chat, and we will also send a press release recapping the information that you've heard today and a link to the full recording. Thank you so much for being with us. Enjoy the rest of your day.